On this episode, I'll tell you who to hate and who to love. And then I'm going to tell you, you might have to flip that around when the draft starts. I'll tell you why in just a second here on today's Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, y'all? Welcome to another edition of Locked On Jaguars. I'm the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, Tony Wiggins. And here it is your team every day. And we love to thank you for making us your first listen. A quick reminder, go over to the YouTube page that is Locked On Jaguars. Tap in, make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button, and then hit that bell so you get notifications each and every time we drop an episode. Also, wherever you listen to your audio podcast, make sure you hit that location up every single day to make sure you don't miss an episode of Locked On Jaguars. Thank you to the Everydayers for joining us here every single day, and we appreciate you being an Everydayer. And you can be one if you're not an Everydayer. All you got to do is listen every single day. I hope y'all understand that it's every day. All right, gotcha. You understand that. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. All right, so here's the thing. We're going to talk about liking and loving prospects and then hating prospects, right? We're going to look at it a little bit before the draft, but mainly about 75% of this is going to be on draft night and after that. How y'all decide to move and how you decide to look at and view some of these prospects. This ain't about your fandom, although some people will make it that. I know guys and people that I respect, they do it different than me. They don't like anybody who used to play here, who left here angry, even if it's justified. They don't like anybody who's played for any team in our division. They don't like anybody who's played for a team that at any point beat the Jaguars in very, very critical games, unless that player then comes to play for Jacksonville. So that being said, that's not really what I'm talking about, but kind of. And so I'll go through that. We're going to talk about liking prospects until you don't in the first segment. What you hate to imagine about prospects you want for the Jaguars if they end up in the division playing for the rivals. And pick them or play against them. It's going to go along with everything that I mentioned in segment 1 and 2 is going to go along with one of the things that I always say. If you don't pick them, you got to play against them. And they can't pick everybody, but not picking someone is usually a bad thing if they turn out to be really good, combined with the fact that you pick somebody that turned out to be really horrible. So it's like a double whammy. Let's get to the top, though, to talk about liking prospects until you don't. All right, here we go. The names that have been associated with the 17th pick for the Jaguars: Johnny Newton, Brian Thomas Jr., Terry and Arnold, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Quinyon Mitchell. Those are the main guys in the first round that I think the fans around here would basically clamor for and really, really want. Any offensive lineman. First of all, let me tell you this. Whoever the Jaguars pick, the fans are going to justify it and they're going to love it. Maybe not the first 20 minutes or maybe 2 hours or so. But by the time you go to sleep, even if you don't like the pick when they make the pick, by the time you go to sleep and you calm down and you chew on an edible or whatever it is you do to make yourself go to sleep at night. I may have just exposed myself, but still, whatever it is you got to do to make yourself go to sleep at night so you can get a good night's sleep pain-free. I had to throw that in there. You will find a reason when you wake up to be optimistic about who the Jaguars chose. That's not crazy and it's not wrong. You know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like a fan. And y'all got the right to do that. I will literally do a postcast after the Jaguars pick next Thursday. If I hate the pick, I'm going to have people cheering me right along saying they hate the pick too. By tomorrow morning, by the next day, if I do a podcast, still hating on the pick, I'm going to get some of those same people telling me I need to relax. That's just the way it goes. I understand fandom. I understand. This is why I don't go out of my way to try to make people happy all year long when I know there's nothing to be happy about. It's also why I don't go out of my way to make people feel sad when I know they're sad, because the bottom line is I know you're sad and I know why you're sad. I understand fandom. I really do. I try to stay unflappable when it comes to that stuff. But there are some times when fandom is allowed to be one-sided. There are some times when fandom is allowed to make you irrational. That's when something happens that you don't want to happen, and it's a plus for your rivals. You got a right, if you want to hate everybody who's ever worn a Titan, Texan, or a Colt uniform. And you got a right, if you want to carry that with you wherever you end up going, here and in the afterlife. I'm not yoked like that, but I understand the people that are. You spend all your time rooting for a team. You spend all your time rooting against the other team. And most of the time, in this case, when we're talking about rivals, if your team isn't successful, that either opens the door and allows for a team that you hate to be successful, or one of those teams that you hate is the responsible party for your team not being successful. What makes this even worse, I was about to use the word exacerbate. I don't know if it's supposed to go there, but it sounds like it does. I heard enough conversations that it sounds like that's where people who say exacerbate say it. So I just explained that to you, that I was about to maybe make myself sound like an idiot. I might have to look the word up while I'm doing the podcast, but your hatred for that team will be enhanced. How about that one? There you go. Your hatred for that team will be enhanced. If you spend your entire draft process from February all the way to April or May, or the last week in April, which is right before May, and all you are doing is talking about these 4 or 5 players. And then all you're doing when you talk about the second round picks, the guys that you want to be on your team, like if Johnny Newton is around, and Johnny Newton's actually one of the first round picks, but if they don't take him, maybe Braden Fiskey. If they don't take Brian Thomas Jr., maybe it's Keon Coleman, or maybe it's Ricky Pearsall, or maybe it's Malachi Corley. All of these names Wig has talked about and mentioned on these podcasts ever since January, when the team wasn't going anywhere. All of the names that you've known, all of the highlight clips that you looked at, and then you realize the Jaguars can't draft them all, right? Now imagine this. I want you to ponder this. Not only did they have the opportunity to take a guy that you wanted, but they took somebody that you didn't even think. Let's just imagine we're a week ahead. They took somebody you didn't even think or imagine that they would ever take. So that poor guy, and I'll say this, that poor guy will have about 8 to 12 hours of nothing but vitriol. And I promise you, if you hear that pick and then they scan to the Jaguars crowd and they got their eyes bugged open and everybody looks like they're saying WTH, just stay off social media for half a day. Don't even worry about it. Just be happy with your family. Eat the deviled eggs and all of that other finger food that they got over there, because you get ready to get some money. Everybody wants you to get some money because they're going to ask you for some. And get on a private plane and fly to Jacksonville. Get off the plane and realize it's 30 degrees higher. The temperature is 30 degrees above wherever you just came from. Go in, shake hands, and meet people and realize you're going to sign a contract within weeks that's going to give you a chance to have generational money that you never saw. And you'll be able to buy anything you want to buy. So that's what I want you to concentrate on. If your name is called and they pan to the Jacksonville Jaguars fan base on the TV screen and everybody is looking like, what are they doing drafting him? Just don't worry about it, because once they go to sleep and they wake up, they're going to fall right back in line with the organization. And I'm not saying that. I'm telling y'all, I'm not being mean when I say that. It's the dead truth. There are times when fans have the opportunity to fan out and be fans, but then they go right back to being exactly what they are. So if that's who you are, if you're a projected pick in the first round and you're listening to the Locked On Jaguars podcast because you want to find out who the best podcast is, and everybody keeps telling you it's me and you might come here and you're hoping to come here, just take my advice on draft night. If that happens, just don't say nothing to nobody and just don't even look at social media. They got like an 8 to 12 hour rule for Jaguar fans. Give them 8 to 12 hours. They'll be all right and they'll wake up and it'll be kumbaya, and we'll have some marshmallows and all of that stuff, and they'll be happy, and they'll justify. Even if you're a punter, they're going to figure out a way to justify why. Well, maybe not that. That's a little bit extreme, but and maybe not an off-ball linebacker. You probably can't be that. And as much as I want a fullback on the team, maybe they probably can't take him either. They probably shouldn't be taking a tight end in the first round either. Or definitely not a quarterback or safety, because there is no. Let's see. I'm just thinking out loud. There's no safety on the board worthy of a number one pick. So any of the position I just mentioned, except those 17, if you play any of the other 4 or 5 spots, you might be all right. But if they take any of those other dudes, or if it's a person at one of those spots and we don't know his name because we ain't talked about him enough, everybody gonna be mad for about 8 to 12 hours. Just give it some time. But I'm gonna make y'all mad in a minute, because I'm gonna go through some of these names, and here's the exercise I have today. Imagine the dude that you love and want the most goes to one of those teams in the division. What you gonna feel like? I know what you're gonna feel like. You're gonna be mad as hell. Well, good, because I'm about to make you even madder. I'm going to rub that in a little bit. And I'm just going to warn you that this is what might happen. You get to turn that hate on. You can turn that hate on and off when you want to. These things might happen, because I'm going to try to use my formula that I use for everybody to match these players up with potential teams that they might go to, and y'all might not like it. I'm going to do all that in just a second here on the Friday edition of Locked On Jaguars. First, I'm going to tell you about today's sponsor, and that is Yahoo, man. I'm telling you right now, Yahoo is the absolute truth. Y'all got to know it, because I'm telling you, and not only am I telling you, but I've been saying it all week, that Yahoo Finance is the way to go. Now, listen, if you are investing your money, and you got all of these different ways of reaching and getting to your portfolio. Like, you got to go here, you got to use this phone, you got to use that computer. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investment and retirement accounts in one place? Yeah, I think it would. With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. Like, for instance, I got 401k, I got a self-employment savings plan that I actually started when I was 26 years old. Didn't put a whole bunch of money in it, but it looks pretty good right now. I got some other things I do to broker in DC, and those are 3 separate phone calls or 3 different logins on computers. You don't have to do that, man. I got rid of that stuff and got me Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. They're number one in finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. The number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. And welcome back to Locked On Jaguars, your team every day. We always thank you for making us your first listen, even though I know you didn't go anywhere. You was here. But now you see my face again if you're watching on YouTube. If not watching on YouTube, or you need to make sure that you tap in wherever you get your audio podcast. I'm there every single day. Make sure you tap in, so make sure you don't miss an episode. All right, so we know that the cornerback, defensive line, wide receiver, and edge are positions that the Jaguars are rumored to be really, really focusing on, with a little bit of an asterisk next to offensive line. But I'm going to take everything that I've heard and seen, and I'm going to tell you, unless somebody falls to them, I think they're going to address that on day 3. So we'll focus on these other positions real quick. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a real fun exercise. We are going to imagine that some of those players that have been mocked to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and some that you all have been mocking to the Jacksonville Jaguars for months, and you say they are your favorites, we're going to imagine them going somewhere else, but not just anywhere else. I'm going to show you how quick your love for prospects can change into hate for prospects, and how, for the most part, for 98% of that is really, really healthy, because it's what fans are supposed to do. There's about 2% of it where y'all sit down somewhere, right? I'm going to just tell you right now, you need to relax a little bit. If you think a player is really good, you really think he's good, you think he is like the cream of the crop, right? You think he is Billy D. Williams coming down the stairs and Lady Sings the Blues. He is that dude that you want his DNA injected into the veins of your football organization. And then he goes to your rivals and you go, he sucks. I understand it. I get it. I'm telling you right now, I get every minute of it, every second of it. I don't believe you, but I get it, right? Because I know what that is. That's you wanting him to suck. Even though 5 minutes before he got picked by that team, you wanted your team to pick him. And with this is the Colts more than anybody else because the Titans picked so far ahead of the Jaguars, they ain't going to get the dude that the Jaguars want. But watch this. They also picked 38. They might get the dude that the Jaguars want. They got a second-round pick too. Okay? And the Texans don't have a first-round pick. But guess what else they got? They got a second-round pick. In fact, I think they got two of them, if I'm not mistaken. So they could maneuver or possibly end up picking someone that they could end up picking someone that the Jaguars really, really want. And y'all got to lie to yourselves and say that that person sucks. You can say it to the extent where you just, you know how you say that. You like, he ain't no good. He can't play. We're going to beat the brains off of him. Knowing damn well you lying to yourself. That's cool because that's fandom. But really trying to force people to believe it is another thing. So watch this. Quinyon Mitchell is my choice for who I want the Jaguars to take. He is not who I chose in the Locked On NFL mock draft, and that's because he was gone. And one of the reasons he was gone, I think in that particular draft, Arizona had traded back, and then they drafted him. But the team that I'm more concerned about with taking him is the Colts. And I'm concerned even because they were in the sweepstakes for L'Jarius Sneed, and they didn't get it. The Titans did. I'm not concerned about the Titans taking a corner in the first or the second round, to be honest with you, because the Titans also signed two other corners. I think they signed another corner in free agency, or they got another corner. I think Houston signed two. So I'm not concerned about them, but I am concerned about the Colts. And I do think they're going to end up, if they don't draft Brock Bowers, and we don't want him to go there either, even though the Jaguars aren't drafting him. We do not. If you're a Jaguar fan who happens to be a Florida fan, the last thing you want is to see that dude running up and down the field for a team that, again, another team that you're rooting against, catching passes from the guy that you rooted for in college. That'd be a disaster, right? I just imagined that, and I sat there and thought, oh my God. And then I imagine what if Johnny Newton makes it out of the first round and the Houston Texans trade up, or they sit where they're sitting and they take Braden Fiskey, who he's on everybody's mind. When it comes to those pesky Titans, they need a slot receiver. They've talked about it, that they're going to play Calvin Ridley outside, and they're going to play, obviously, DeAndre Hopkins. And Treylon Burks, the only thing he's slotting his food down his throat, so I don't think he's going to be playing. He's not really in their plans. There's a lot of talk about Ricky Pearsall to Jacksonville. And that talk basically started because the Jaguars found out he wasn't working out, and they didn't take their film crew. So by them wanting to take their film crew to his workout kind of tells you that there may be a bunch of guys that they're doing that with, but he was one of them. And that lets you believe that Ricky Pearsall is a real possibility for Jacksonville. I do too. I think he is too in the second round. What are the Titans' little sneaky butts? What did they get him at the top of the first round? And now I'll go back to those Florida fans who happen to be Jaguar fans. Now y'all got to root against the dude who you rooted for in college because now he is with your rival. Not only that, I think he's a really good player. And obviously, a lot of Jaguar people think he's a good player too. And guess what? What if he goes there? These are just things I don't want to imagine. I don't even want to think about it. A lot of talk about Keon Coleman. Some people talking about if the Jaguars traded back in the first round, what could they get Keon Coleman? What if Keon Coleman goes to the Colts and becomes the other big receiver opposite the receiver Michael Pittman? And now I don't want. What if Brock Bowers and Keon Coleman go to the Colts? It'd be a disaster, man. I would probably really start being like y'all and root against these guys and probably tell lies and say that they stink. Knowing it's not true, but it'll make me feel better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going through these little lists, but then I'm going to do something else. I'm going to compound this. I'm trying to prepare you for something that you probably haven't had to be prepared for 3 or 4 years because Trent Baalke hits on his first round picks. I'm going to try to prepare you for what if these guys go to other teams and they're good, and then the person that the Jaguar picks, and I'm not going to name him because I ain't trying to put roots. By the way, if y'all don't know what putting roots are, it's like you put a spell on people and they keep having a bunch of bad luck. It was originated, I think, somewhere in New Orleans or somewhere like, sorry, Ross Jackson, but I do think that. But anyway, you get my point. I'm just trying to bring us all together here so we can have a good time. But what if the dude that you draft is bad and these guys turn out to be good and it compounds your agony? I told you I didn't want to think about it. I'm going to tell you about it in segment number 3 of Locked On Jaguars. But first, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day, having to turn down the volume with all that yelling and screaming? Especially from certain people, but make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're going to answer that question is what if these guys turn out to be good and then they take somebody y'all never wanted in the first place and they are horrible? I know whose job y'all going to call for, so we'll talk about it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. I got to tell y'all about Monopoly Go. That's right. Monopoly Go is the absolute truth, and I'm going to tell you why. Because it's about competition. It's also about bringing your family and friends together, but y'all ain't got to be in the same room. It's new, man. Y'all can be all over the place because I'm real competitive, and my competitive side gets the best of me sometimes, and I'm sure you've heard of it because it's been downloaded over 150 million times, but Monopoly Go is great, and it's a twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big time money. But it's not just about being in competition. It's just that you can team up with friends and people around the world in time tournaments to earn huge, huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now free, the App Store or Google Play. I'm telling you, man, we have all enjoyed Monopoly. Now you get the chance to enjoy it in an enhanced way with more than just the people around you. You get to enjoy it with hundreds of people from multiple locations. So get back out there, put your game face on and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. All right, third, final segment here on Locked On Jaguars as we close out the last week before draft week. So Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we're going to hit it real hard. We're going to give you all the information those 3 days that we've been able to get from our contacts, from other members of the media, from people in the agent world, from players themselves, from people we know in the coaching circle. So I won't be mentioning a lot of names, obviously, but every single thing that I'm going to get, I'm going to put it all together in a big pot of gumbo, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I'm going to give it to you all until the action happens Thursday night. I'll be live giving you takes, bringing you the pick, giving you discussions. When I get back to my office from being down at the stadium, I'll do a postcast. Then we'll film a regular and record a regular podcast for Friday, one that after you guys have taken 8 to 12 hours and did the woosah, we'll come back and I'll hit you with that one on Friday. So it's going to be a busy, busy week. I'll see a lot of people at the Jaguars draft party. Make sure you come up. Just, yeah, I'm every day. I got you. Yeah, every day. When I say, what's your name? Tell me your name, and I'll make sure I mention it on Lockdown, unless I get too many people. I ain't going to remember all those names, but I will be in the house. So pick them or play against them. You can look at need, you can look at what the team needs, you can look at your culture, you can look at your team, but ultimately it comes like this. If you pick a guy and you leave other people on the board, if you're the Jaguar fans, I wonder sometimes if they go, if we pick him and we don't pick him, imagine us having to play against him. And usually you can do that if it's at a position like, so you're talking corner and wide receiver, right? If you don't draft a wide receiver, but you draft a corner instead, and a rival, even if a rival doesn't do it, like right now, if the first name, if you mention either C.J. Henderson or Caleb Von Chason, the first name somebody's going to mention is Justin Jefferson. And if you don't realize, and in Philly, when they were mentioning that little receiver that they took like 2 picks ahead of Justin Jefferson, you bring his name up in Philly. I think it's the Whiteside kid, if I'm not mistaken. Every time you mention his name in Philadelphia, he ain't even on the Eagles anymore. I don't even know if the kid is even in the NFL. Last time I heard, I think he was with Arizona. But somebody else is going to mention Justin Jefferson. I think if you name Dwayne Gratz here, somebody will say, I think it was Gratzy that they used the pick on. They used the pick on somebody. They traded for, was it Dwayne Gratz? It could have been another. I think Gratz may have come late. Whoever the dude was that stole a pack of bubblegum on South Beach, it was that guy, right? I think it was him. That was the pick that should have been Rob Gronkowski. But the Jaguars had traded a year earlier to move up and take somebody in the 3rd round. So their 2nd round pick went to somebody who traded in New England. They got Rob Gronkowski. It's going to be stuff like that that will make you. So if you draft a wide receiver or corner instead of a receiver, and that receiver turns out to be Justin Jefferson, which could very be possible. He wasn't taken early in the draft. He was taken 27. And then he has to play against him. And every single time these two play against, the dude just eats his lunch. It's going to hit you in a different kind of way. It's going to hurt you so bad it's not going to be funny. So I wonder sometimes they do. We take him, and what if, I always said this. Imagine if the player you don't pick because you're subscribing to some sort of formula, or you're subscribing to some too much of a need and filling in squares, and you leave a really, really good player. That's why I was glad yesterday when Trent Baalke said, we go with the best player available, but if they're really, really close, what we'll do is we'll go with need. I mean, there has to be a significant difference in the talent level for us to just go with the best player available. So thinking about this, unfortunately, some of these needs do line up. Like if you're thinking interior pass rush, you think Houston, you think even though they got Stephon Diggs, I think they're good at wide receiver. They may go snatch another corner. I know they're good at edge, right? But mainly I'm thinking about those 3 techniques: Braden Fiske and Johnny Newton and those dudes, man. And Michael Carter is a great possibility for them. So when you think about them, I'm thinking about the Houston Texans with that. That's where that could probably match up. As far as the Colts is concerned, wide receiver and corner. They've been talking about wide receiver and corner up there for a minute. And I would be shocked if they went in a different direction than that, although they might be able to address the defensive line or the edge a little bit too, because you can never have too many. But they also need some offensive line help. So they may be a team that might grab one of those versatile offensive lines that are just too good to pass up at 15. That would leave the Jaguars with one less team in front of them that may take something as an immediate pressing need. Now let's get to Tyler Rowland's Tennessee Titans. I think they addressed corner in free agency and via trade. The Titans are always, and I know Rand Carthon is a little bit different from the previous administration, but I think they'll always be the type of team that really, really does try to always maintain the defensive line. They're going to draft, I think they're going to draft an offensive tackle first, but they also want a wide receiver. And that part is where they also hit the hot spot. And they could be a team in the market for a Malachi Corley, or as I said, a Ricky Pearsall, or maybe even a Ladd McConkey. They just may be one of those teams, and they pick early enough. They pick 38th, where they just snatch a guy that some people have been considering on the table for the Jacksonville Jaguars. You can best believe that that's going to happen. One of these teams is going to pick 1 or 2 guys on day 2, or maybe even day 1. The likelihood of that happening is rare, but because of the way they're drafting and because Houston doesn't have a day 1 pick, so watch out for Indy. But on day 2, watch out for all of them. 2 of them are picking right in front of Jacksonville, and then I think Houston may have 1 before and 1 after, or they'll have enough ammunition. If they see a guy that they want, they'll be able to come up and get him. That's where you got to watch it. It's bad enough you can't pick everybody. A lot of players we like I said, I know people that probably have 150, 180 people on their board, according to my sources. and you're only going to get 7. So you're not going to get a whole bunch, and players are going to go other places. I've said it, it's tongue in cheek. I'm having fun with it. Players are going to go other places, but let them go somewhere else outside of the division. And please let them go outside of the division. Don't stay in the division, and don't stay in the division and be a great player when we pass you up for a player that doesn't turn out to be real good. I'll tell you what'll turn out right, though. If you watch and listen to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube, it is the Locked On launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On Plus, our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. All right, man. Have a good weekend and get ready. Eat your Wheaties, take your vitamins, do all of that stuff, because come next week, we are locked and loaded. We are going full steam ahead with the NFL draft. We'll see you. Until then, take care.